So guys, there is this amazing metal festival called Brutal Assault held every year in a military fortress, medieval style, in the Czech Republic, hosting 18,000 people. They have had bands like Motorhead, Slayer, In Flames, Obituary, and a lot of other bands. And I'm lucky enough now to be sitting down with some of the people behind this festival. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, independent metal festivals in Europe, held now for the 30th time. The people that I'm joined here by from Brutal Assault are?
My name is Vojta, and I've been with the festival for like 10 years, maybe over 10 years, and I'm doing stage managing of the Obscure stage, the C stage.
Great.
I'm Tomas Fiala, I'm the promoter of the festival, and I do mostly the dramaturgy of the bands.
My name is Thomas Korn, and I'm responsible for some technical stuff like backline and also some parts of technical production.
Martin or Shindy, whatever you want, festival promoter.
Okay, great. So these are the people that know everything about Brutal Assault. And what I wanted to ask first is, what are some of the headlines on this year's version of the festival? Some of the big bands.
If we have to speak about the headliners, we can mention Opeth. There is Scary King, there is Carnival, there is Bloodfire Dead, and many more to be mentioned. But in general, like, I'm not 100% for the idea of complete headliners. We just want to have some bigger bands, some middle bands, and it's all about the entire lineup and how the feeling goes out of it. Once you see the poster, you do realize that there is a special package who does have a lot of connecting points.
What I like about this, and what you said now, that there's not like a headliners as such. There are 150 bands. This is over 4 days. So you can actually kind of create your own festival.
Sure.
And that's what I see that people are doing. You know, like some people are on the big stages. There are 4 stages, like 3 larger ones, and then one kind of more of the octagon. And you can actually kind of design your own festival in a way, which is really, really interesting, because I have seen some people that are watching my YouTube videos, they're saying, oh, I love this band, and I didn't even know that that band was on the festival, you know? So that's a super interesting thing.
Because it's virtually impossible to like catch all the whole thing.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
It's a lot.
It's
Exactly.
It's impossible.
But how is how do you pick the lineup for something like this? I mean, how does this come together? I mean, do the bands call you and say, I want to play there, or I mean, how does this work?
Oh, I mean, there's various ways how to make it happen, but in general, we are big musical fans and we do like the music. And what I try to accomplish is just to put up the lineup, which would be wide in an extreme range, and still to pick the best bands, which I do think are the best ones. And sometimes, like for example, that's the case of the band called Glidas from Australia. They just wrote me. It's a small band. They are going to be on a very small stage, but it was an amazing band. So we just said, oh, let's make it happen. So it really depends. But in general, it's interesting music which matters. And at some point, obviously, we need to have some bigger bands because we are the festival on a certain scale. But in general, it's as I said.
But is it ever that the fans are asking for something? You know what I mean? Like, is there ever, like, I don't know, you get 500 emails asking for Obituary or whatever?
Well, sometimes people do, but we do ask them also what are the bands they would like to see. So we know what our crowd is about, but our crowd is about the same thing which we are about, which is kind of if the egg was first or the chicken. So we try to deliver what we do think is the best for the festival and for our people, and we try to explore with the interesting artists and make it more interesting than more rigid, I would say.
And also, because I've been backstage at this festival, so I've kind of seen with my own eyes all the stuff that goes on. And of course I see the rock stars, you know. I remember last year I was walking and I was like, I know this guy, and there was a guitar player from Exodus, and I was like, I peed my pants, you know. And it's super cool, but then it also made me think about, like, we always hear these stories about those stars, you know, metal and rock stars, that they have some extreme demands. Have you ever had a band ask for something that you just couldn't do? Has there ever been someone that you wanted to come get and play at your festival that asked for something you were like, no, we can't do that? There was not like Ozzy with the M&Ms or whatever.
Or maybe there is an interesting story with the Blood.
What was the band? It was like...
Well, we're talking about, I think you go to Dark and Nocturne
Yes.
The thing is that it was also something that Thomas is quite known for, like being vegan for decades, and usage of like real animal blood, because sometimes for the bands who are like really into it, they are not, it's a no-go to use like fake blood. So there are things how to go through this with using like a human donor. So
Which is even more interesting.
And it's like, okay,
Let's make it.
no harm to animals and no fake blood for the band who like is trustful to its own roots and its own beliefs.
So more metal, actually, I think.
Well, let's say, yeah. So if I'm talking about such a things, but I think recently was discussed. I don't know, kind of things like that many times shared. Oh, see what, I don't know, I believe it was 2004 or 2008 rider for backstage stuff for Motorhead. And with those things, you can actually see how during the time, how time is passing, like what was normal for like one of the biggest names in metal is now getting like a standard for like mid-sized bands. So for example, the amount of required drinks or like takeaway alcohol or whatever within 20 years kind of increased. And it's similarly with technical requests or amount of special, I don't know, required mixing consoles for monitoring. All the technology goes up and up, and back in the days bands were like requiring slightly more standard stuff. And I would say there is a story that maybe Thomas can mention with the private jet that should be like more demanding thing, which was a little bit out of standards for Brutal Assault Festival.
Yeah. I mean, in general, there are some things we cannot really fulfill. And that's, for example, if we would like to have a bigger bands, then we would need to change the our concept, which are two stages aside of each other's, and as well as we do have the restricted capacity. That's not gonna happen. So we just have to make all the picks according to what our options are. But back to the interesting things, back in the days like Motorhead, were like we really wanted them to play, and they were booked on Siget Festival. And I just told them that we have to do it on Thursday, whatever, and they said that they need to be in England on Saturday, and that it's not really luxury and doable in a bus, and that in such cases they need to use a private jet. And I was like, well, it's gonna be expensive. So I just requested it. At the end, it was quite okay-ish. And they said, otherwise we are not gonna play. And so we made it happen. And then the next, last year I met a friend from Bloodstock who used to work for Motorhead. And I was like, oh, back in the days, did you do Brutal Assault? And he was like, oh yeah, it was our first private jet. No. I was like, okay, great, that's a great one. So sometimes you do have stories like that, and it's interesting. Oh.
Maybe I will follow up with, speaking of extremes, this is not that much of an extreme question, but what I appreciate about the lineup is like, especially in the recent years, is those like out of genre bands, like various places of the festival, you know, because it adds some, you know, some more flavor to the whole thing. So what was you know, what's your kind of this main question for you? I think because you booked the bands. What do you remember as like the most extreme out of genre non-metal, you know, thing that there was?
Maybe you can help me out because usually it's on your stage. But maybe it was Purpa. If you do remember the Purpa with the Mongolian tubes, that's
the like pre-Buddhist born traditional music from Tibet area, and it's really like the throat, super deep throating. I can hardly do that thing, but you know that super kind of with the long. Yeah, it's very strange technique for vocals, and that's basically like ancient folklore. It's not related to metal, but on the other hand, what we are trying to go through is search for a certain atmosphere, which has to be super far from metal. But if the atmosphere is very fitting, it's actually matching the festival much more than some, I don't know, standard, let's say heavy metal or speed metal, which is not that the right thing for our festival.
Plus, if you eat rice entire week, you want to have potatoes on Monday.
Yeah.
So if I will put it as simple as that, and that breaks through a lot of things. So we just insist on a thing. It has to be dark and interesting. But for example, what was another extreme was the Swans show.
Okay.
Which they performed maybe 2.5 hours. That was the
very difficult to put up actually, production-wise.
The longest set ever.
Out of standards for the
sound. So
stage sketch as well.
So we do like it. We do like to keep it challenging. For example, this year we have Boren and their Club of Gore, and which I called internally. I like to make jokes about the genres, or I put on genres which I called funeral jazz, and it's super interesting thing, and it's gonna be really cool that you can relax and you need to explore a little bit different atmosphere just to get back on what was the standard thing. So.
I remember Layback.
Layback was the thing I want to mention, and this year Carnival definitely.
And like New Model Army last year, Jolly Christmas.
Another good example, yeah.
Can I get a follow-up very quickly? This is actually connected. Like, can each of you guys maybe tell us like maybe one artist or band that can be surprising for people? Maybe for like there's like a favorite out of metal band or artist that you guys listen to, if there's any. I mean, like a guilty pleasure, if you will.
A guilty pleasure. No, I will introduce the Boren and their Club of Gore for this year, so that should be interesting. And we have been trying it for a long time, and it's going to be a very good experiment for me.
And actually, I will name Thomas Pick, which is this year's Carnival. He's a huge fan of it. I was never like really paying that much attention about the band, but he was putting it in the office quite recently. I was like, wow, and I remember I know those songs from somewhere, but I had no idea that this band. So for me, this is the band I will try to do my best to find the time to see them on stage. And the atmosphere goes really deep, and it's very extravagant for format of the festival, I would say. Definitely one of the biggest bands which are that far from the standard format of the festival.
Does Shindy listen to some non-metal?
Not that much, and from my experience, I don't plan to see anything because usually I miss it. So
same here.
So better to come in with low expectations.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. But on a festival like this, when we have 150 bands, and this is the 30th year that the festival is, or 30th. It's the 30th time that the festival takes place. Have there been bands where you saw them, they were young or new or you didn't really know them, and you thought, okay, this is going to be big, this band is going to blow up? Is there any band that you remember like that you saw? Have you missed all the bands or you saw some bands?
No, I remember I saw Behemoth years ago when they were small. They came in a van, had a big drinking party with beers. They were soaked up with beer, and the driver refused to take them back if they look like this.
I think we talk about
they
late
maybe had
90s.
to change the dress to get back home.
Late 90s maybe, or beginning of 2000 something ish.
2000 something.
Okay.
And you felt when you watched them perform that they could become big?
No, not because of I watched them.
No, but when you saw them, you felt that they would become bigger. I mean, have you ever, what I mean is that have you ever spotted someone that then, I don't know, architects, for example, I think that they play...
Sure, Architects is one of the cases, or Gojira.
Gojira,
That the first time we booked them, it was 2006. And they came for 800 euros. And well, the question is, I was not sure if they are gonna be big, but I knew that it's a super great band which I have
Something
to introduce,
special, yeah.
and it was very special to me.
And look at them now.
And what happened was another story.
So you basically got Gojira to the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
You got Motorhead, their first private jet.
The line was a little bit curly.
That's what I'm sometimes saying. You know who made the Olympics happen for Gojira, but it's not really true. We all know it. But Architects, Gojira, and there's a lot of bands like that. And recently I was on a show in Ostrava, and it was great to speak to people. And people told me, well, it's really interesting that sometimes we do some bands on a first slots, and within 3-4 years they are
You've seen them
following
climb,
up.
yeah.
And I'm happy for that, because then we know what we do, and that's great.
Can I maybe just one quick, because this whole thing kind of brings me to like, what is are there any plans to like expand? Like, I mean, not expand physically, because we all know that cannot happen, but like expand maybe like genre-wise, or get modern or whatever, like include like a techno stage, or something. I mean, are there any plans to like change the festival in any way in the next 5-10 years, or?
To be completely honest, not really. I guess we have found our great format. There can be a small minor changes, but in general, the most important is to be the right people, to be picking the right bands, and that's what we need insistent on, and that's we need to keep doing and have a good choice, and that's something what it should be about.
I agree.
Well, the limit of the walls is obvious, as you mentioned. You cannot stretch the fortress, but you can make it... Well, I think the evolution itself is based on the fact that you have to really follow the track and don't stop to search for the new bands which are still perfectly matching the concept of the festival.
And maybe just to be added, at some point when we were sold out and we were thinking about maybe we can move it somewhere and do a bigger festival, but then we are like, not really. We don't want to, and we would lost a lot of the magic and the common magic we are in, which is the format we put on plus the fortress is something we have to insist, and that's a very strong package.
I think also for me, because my background is in business, and I've always thought about this festival from business point of view, and I think in some way the restrictions of the fortress are positive, because they force you to think creatively about, okay, so what can we do? How can we increase the revenue here? How can we grow this, but within those limitations? So it actually makes you, it would be super easy if you could, we'll just sell 5,000 more tickets, but the toilets will still suck. But now, because you thought, okay, no, we have these 18,000 people in here, let's sell premium toilets. Let's have a warm shower. Let's have more food options. Let's make the experience better.
And also the restriction were kind of the interesting point which explored us into the production. I mean, it would happen naturally anyway, but back in the days when we moved the festival to Josefov, we had no idea what the production is. Then we started learning it, And then after a few years in the fortress, we were like, oh, there's an interesting part of the fortress. What can be done there? Maybe a pub, or maybe it can be a fair house. And we started stepping around the things and using the fortress. So really, it brought us the creativity, because we had to handle what was already there. And we had not been able to put it the way we would ideally like to, but that was really cool.
And also the fortress is kind of changing as you go, right? Like it's evolving all the time because of actually it's partly because of the festival, right?
Yeah.
And the work involved.
Yeah.
Can you maybe say a few words about that?
Yeah. That's for you, or
Yeah. We just actually I did some research or trying to gather some data on it, and we're doing for 10 years already. And it started like a little volunteering brigade with a couple of guys doing this and that and exploring what can be done. And after that, we explored like big field, what can be done. And we are doing like 7,000 plus hours per year volunteeringly on the festival side.
Yeah, so basically to introduce it, we do have a brigades, or it's not a brigade.
It's actually
volunteering.
Volunteering and trying to help the fortress and try to make it better for the next Brulaso, but even for a fortress itself. And it became very popular among the fans of Brulaso, and it's really rewarding to see people doing that. And whenever you have a people who do a work for free in these days, it means there is a spirit and there is something additional, and that's a brilliant thing to experience.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about some of the production stuff also later. I mean, there are so many things that have to come together at the same time. But there's one thing, I want to talk a little bit about technology, because that has changed a lot during those years. And there is one thing that I noticed, because last year I was backstage. There's no sound on the stage anymore. It's all in the ears of the musician. How has this changed, like, producing festivals and concerts like this? I mean, because now there are no monitors, and I mean, first of all, I would never be able to play music like this because I would like to hear the noise, but how has this changed?
Well, I would say that I wouldn't call it like trend, because it's happening for years and goes smoothly, and of course you can see it more in some more modern music genres, like, I don't know, let's say metalcore, deathcore, or more that super technical death metal. Actually, it comes mostly with the music which is demanding technically much more than, like, let's say, old school death metal or hardcore setup. It's like bigger but still same setup like in the old days, like when you play just guitars and this. The thing is that monitors which have like classic speakers and are turned to musicians on stage are the way how they hear themselves. With the in-ear monitors and the wireless system, you have everything in your ears. It has pros and cons. Pro, definitely, is better for singers who are really doing melodic vocals, because you can hear perfectly yourself. Whenever you move on stage, you are bringing your monitors with you. And it's also more demanding for your own monitors, all the system you have to take with you. But there are also cons, which as a visitor or backstage you notice. If you see the band, you see the audience like getting wild or whatever, but the stage itself, the only loud instrument is actually drums, because the guitar players are using also like line effects that make the guitar sound directly without any speakers and microphone in there. There is no monitor, there is no side fill, which is like that smaller PA, which makes that massive feeling to the stage. The amount of drummers who are nowadays using the thing which is called, I don't know, Porter and Davis are making those, or it's called butt kicker. Actually, that was the thing which was invented, I believe, in 50s, maybe even earlier, for some cinemas in US. And somebody just found that if you sit on a chair and you put a massive amount of like shaky frequency, which is, I don't know, up to 200 hertz, your body, that transmission understood completely like a massive sound, but there is no sound. So with in-ears and this one, the drummer has a feeling he's playing like in front of a PA system. It's so massive, but it's completely quiet on stage. So less bleeding, which is that unwanted signal going to other microphones. So it's very easy to control all the miking on stage. So just vocals, drums, those things. But on the other hand, as a visitor from the side, you see people going crazy, and it's like, what's just drama? And as a singer, is look like a fish from you, like
Maybe all the more reason for people to actually get out from the sides and go to the bed. So
but it's also something you can see much more with the bands who are, for example, having some extra arrangements in the backtracks they have to follow. So with those things, it's very often using of in-ears. There are still bands who are very loud on stage and doing like the old-fashioned way. Cannot imagine a band like Motorhead playing with that kind of stuff. But nowadays it's more and more common, and more bands are using this one. It's less and less interesting from those like backstage side viewers, I would say. That's true.
But that's not the only change. I mean, there's also, I saw and it made me think last year, I was watching the Behemoth show, which was huge. I mean, there was fire, lights, and it's crazy stuff actually. And the crazy thing about it is that it's actually all set up in, I don't know, 90 minutes or something between the bands, and but how has that been with all the technical changes there, with the LED lights versus the old-fashioned lights, and the whole, all these pyros and all that? I mean, how does this work?
Well, the bands are evolving, they are getting bigger. That was the good example Martin was mentioning about Behemoth, starting with the van, nowadays going with the truck. They actually will play here on Sunday. And first of all, I have to say it requires very professional crew. And also, well, the biggest difference with lights is like if you are on stage all day, the old-fashioned light bulbs, power lights, you feel like a chicken in a
roastery.
Yeah, almost like that. Especially if you are a drummer and you're very close to those, if the stage is very high, you're not feeling that much. But especially in those closed venues, it's a big difference. LED lights are not that demanding for the power. They are much more variable. It's easier to move it, and all those things together, I would say, require bigger production for each band. So, which is another thing that, if you will compare the festival when everybody was basically using the same setup for the whole festival, nowadays just the requirements for the side wing where you have the monitor area, where is the guy, some guy taking care about the monitors, you can see like there are 3, sometimes 4 crews already ready for another show. Like each of them has its own monitor guy, its own monitor mixing, and everything.
Set up since the morning, right? Some of them
Yes,
go down
yes.
at 7 a.m. or something.
And as we mentioned, we are limited with the Fortress. So, for example, if you have some kind of big field festival, you can also have like truck coming with those things during the production, but you have to do it during the night with brutal assault because the walls will not move. You cannot get with the stage more to the side, so it's very demanding for logistic planning to bring production. Like, I don't know, let's talk about Merciful Fate. It was also like kind of demanding. Parkway Drive, all those things. So this is something you have to keep in mind when you're planning all the production. And I would say the standard, which for some kind of band which went tour, which they're on tour and will be, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 people, that amount of production they were having 20 years ago, now bands which have audience for 200 people in venue is as a standard. So it's going basically hand in hand with time, more and more complicated and more demanding.
Okay, guys, now we go to the security. You're gonna take to the security part now, right?
Yeah, but maybe some of those. I have like well, actually, what would interest me the most from this area of questioning is because sometimes some metal fans or maybe some attendees of the festival can be a little controversial and or a little problematic in some of their ways of expression. So, and we've heard about those cases on brutal assault. So, what is actually your stance on that? Like, what is the limit of the quote-unquote freedom of speech
What is the line? The thing, there is one particular case, which is that there is always a guy with the Rudolf Hess tattoo. And that's very interesting because we do find a lot of photos afterwards the next day, but by the day he is performing his own show, nobody gets back to us really. And for example, if you have explicit tattoos of something which is behind the law line, then it's not gonna go for brutal assault, and we don't really like it. And in general, the principles are that we want to be free space for the normal people, but the restrictions are that we don't do any explicit expressions of the Nazism and any extremes.
So would you say that brutal assault is trying to be like bigotry-free and hate-free space?
Sure.
Right.
And from the other hand, we don't really want to be political in a way that we want to be space when everybody goes and enjoys music. And if people are on the right line and they do understand us, they do know that they come for the sake of great music, and let's leave what's splitting us behind, and let's do what's gonna think us inside.
Yeah. Let's hope that everyone understands that.
Yeah, I have to say that coming there, because this festival draws such a wide crowd. It's from all over the world. It's all sorts of people. There's old people, young people, fat people, slim people. It's just everything, all genders, everything. And what is so fascinating about it is that it all works, even though these are the groups that we are told by the media or on social media that they can never be together. But they all meet there and they enjoy music and they have fun. And I think for me, seeing this festival, because it's 18,000 people, so it's not like a small group. To see this without violence, without any arguments, any fighting or anything like that, it actually tells me that what the media is telling me is bullshit. Because in the end, most people actually get along.
Yeah,
and they don't care about what he voted or what he eats or what she believes in or whom he wants to have sex with or whatever, And I really find that very fascinating about this festival because, and most people that I tell that I go to brutal assault, they're like, oh, isn't that scary? No, it's actually probably my most friendly weekend of the year. It's the only place that I could go and I could get wasted and I wouldn't be worried at all. I mean, I don't get wasted because I'm busy watching the bands, but you know what I mean. So I think that's very, very fascinating, actually.
I hear that a lot actually about the festival, like from various social groups, that they're surprised by the friendliness of the atmosphere.
But I think in general, I think that goes for this nation in some way. I find Czech Republic to be very peaceful, but it wouldn't necessarily, or I don't think people expect that a festival called Brutal Assault in extreme metal would be one of the most friendliest places you could go to.
And by the way, that's what I like about it, that we completely twisted the expression in a best way.
But since when you are using the motto Brutal Assault against the violence?
And intolerance, but I believe that was the first motto ever. It was back from the second edition, or
it's like for years and for decades. I would say for decades.
I think it comes from
late 90s. At the same
90s.
moment, I would say we can be against intolerance, but we cannot tolerate the intolerant people. That's the point.
What was the great thing that back in the days when we were exploring, and it was the first years in Josefov. Sometimes it was strange that there were some conflicts, and we just always try to explain people, no, this is about being friendly and about being nice, and everybody then understood it, and then I'm super happy that the people from all over the world are just having meetings next year on the same places to meet people from another part of the world, and it's just hippie metal in the best way.
Yeah, talking actually about that, how because I've met people from the US, there's this famous guy, the Florida man, he's been coming now for a few years and he's very active on Facebook. I'm always seeing him, he writes a lot on my YouTube channel as well, so shout out to the Florida man if you're watching this. So you get people from the US, hundreds of people. Where else are they coming from? You know, what countries are
Well, it makes me really proud of it because like it looks that our basic idea how we want to have the festival is vital and that we do have a common sense for the same music and it's all over the world. So if I speak about the European countries, then obviously people from the Czech Republic, then Poland and Germany, but then Austria and Slovakia and partly Hungary. So it's Austrian-Hungarian Empire, that's kind of the base. But then France, UK, Italy. But if we do speak about the people from out of Europe, then we do have over 150 people from USA. Like
South America, right?
kind of 30 people from Denver, which is amazing. Then we do have a lot of people from Brazil, but from Colombia, which was very surprising. It was like about 70 people. 70 people from Mexico, people from Canada, over 100 from Australia, which is brilliant. So from that perspective, it's really diverse thing, and it's great to see that it's working out together, and all people do have such a keen to sacrifice their money and try to go every year for that vacation, which I am super proud that we do feel this thing the same way.
And I know that we just spoke about bringing people together and positive stuff, but maybe on the other hand, can you remember like some maybe like troubled times for the festival, or maybe like the biggest anomalies that happened, like maybe like a storm, or like like a blackout, or like whatever happened? Was there some moment that was really extreme for you guys?
11,000 storm, let's say.
That was extreme from the point of view that there was a big rain, but everything was working out. There is a very interesting footage on YouTube. I believe it's 2017, not sure, when the big storm was coming, and by the time Sacred Wake was about to play, and they had to stop, and we stopped the production for 50 minutes. Then we had fire. On a festival.
But it was like vendors, right? Some vendors.
No, it was on a natural on one of the stands, and it was during the Mercur show, and then I do remember the first year we were in a fortress that somebody fell over from the.
Surrounding wall.
Yeah, from the fortress surrounding, but at the end everything worked out well. But these were pretty challenging moments, but we all gone through. Do you realize any?
Not really. Yeah, the fire at the vendors a couple of years ago.
Yep, I remember that.
Luckily, which ended up in a good way.
Yeah, nobody got seriously.
Yeah, he was, but after the recovery,
yep.
he was okay. He's coming to the festival, saying his most favorite band is In Flames. So he's making jokes
ironic.
out of that situation. It was really scary at the moment.
But what is also, we touched on it a little bit earlier, where we talked about that the constraints of the fortress forced you to be innovative. What I have noticed, I mean, I've been going to festivals since before mobile phones and internet, and then festivals were kind of just music. There was almost nothing. I mean, there was a music, there was food, there was a toilet. There was not a cinema, there was not a drum clinic, there was not a whatever, some gladiator fight, like these things, you do a lot for the crowd that comes there that is not just the music. I mean, it's music related somehow or culturally related to the music or something like that. Has this been something that you feel that I don't know, do the visitors want this, or did you just think, okay, let's try this?
Oh, it's pretty easy. The way I do think about festival, it's like its own municipality. And every city, every town do have shops, do have culture centers and whatever. And the point of view comes from the fact that even though that you do have maybe 30 bands you would be technically able to see in a day, you are not able to swallow, or so to say
Consume it,
consume that amount, and then you can do maybe 8-10, but then you have a lot of spare time you need to spend in the same area. So we just want to make it super interesting, and that every minute you have something to do and something which brings your attention and something which comes from the musical background. So basically we want to make a good facilities for our fans and make it very enjoyable environment.
Is there something new coming this year? I don't know, like is there gonna be some new non-performance, or like not a band, but...
Well, what's being planned, there's, and it's almost sure it's gonna happen, there's gonna be a big exhibition of František Storm, which is the masterhead of Master's Hammer. So that's gonna be a big thing, and we have a great connection, and he has been integral part of the Czech metal scene, and even he brought a lot of things like the Czech metal scene to the world. So that's gonna be a very great moment for me, and there's gonna be a lot of small different things which are gonna come, but
it's gonna be a very interesting horror cinema this year.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
Yeah.
We will also continue with the clinics, like with all the amazing musicians who have like the top notch of their instruments. It would be a shame to not use that extra chance, because plenty of the visitors are also band members. They are musicians, so they want to see. And if you have a chance to meet somebody face to face and like getting some kind of education from such experience, amazing artists, that's something definitely we will follow.
I saw last year also that there was a garage band. You could go and play instrument. That was super cool. I hadn't seen that. I think that was the first time that was a container or something with instruments, so you could actually go and play with other people. That was super cool. And the indoor bar or that nightclub is great, because you can rest on the couches there, you know, and you can cool yourself down, because I mean it can get pretty warm. But that's the great thing about Brutal, is that the fortress gives you opportunity. Yeah,
a lot of shelters.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of shelter from the heat. Now, so it's music, it's fun, but we always need to eat. How has the food changed? I mean, if you go back to the early days of the festival, I guess it was just a sausage, bread, and ketchup, and a beer. Now I can have vegan Asian food, and I can have burgers in 7 different versions. You know, how has this developed?
Yeah, actually it is a long way to get to this point, and it required a lot of like even research, or going to the vendors and saying then let's try to do a festival, even if it's with this scary name, let's go and try it. And it worked most of the time. And what we do, we try to find vendors that are doing authentic food.
Okay.
So if we have a Mexican food, it's done by Mexicans. If you have Vietnamese food, it's done by Vietnamese, etc. So yeah, there were like, strictly picked vendors that are doing the best we can get on the market.
Yeah, actually, when you say this, you feel this. You feel that these people who are providing food there, on the food vendors, they are there is some emotion in it, you know, like it's not just
passion. It's passion. For them, it's passion to serve the food, and for us, it's passion to eat it.
So it's not just ketchup and parek and some white bread.
Not
that you
anymore.
can knock
But I
out.
think if you want that, you can still
You can get it, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there
Something
are these guys. They're also on Bassifire. They have the grilled chicken and all that stuff. I buy a lot of parek from them. But this now we touched on some of the production and you know, there are vendors, there are stage people, there's you know, security and everything. How many people are behind the festival? How many people are involved in every single version of the festival?
I would say it varies, of course. You have some kind of stable crew which works like on full-time whole year, which I would say will be up to 15 people, which is like non-stop working. Some of the agenda you're doing 1.5 years in advance easily. So it's nothing like after 1 year you have like 3 months of vacation and then you start with the new year. It goes like continuous process. But when you go to the festival itself, the number is increasing. All the production preparations are getting higher and higher and more demanding for manpower. And if we include 150 volunteers, we can say on site during the festival you can see up to 1,500 people which are working there, including security and crews on the bars and of course technical background, production-wise hosts, drivers, runners, people who are cooking,
Horses.
sheeps on the walls of the fortress, which are already kind of significant. Yeah, but we don't consider them as a crew.
So how long does it take to set it up? Like so from the festival starts on a Wednesday. How far in advance do you start setting everything up?
Well, we have a production meeting about the tasks, which we double check if they are done and how far in the process they are. Actually, today, right after the interview, we have the meetings on a regular basis. This is constant work for works like clockwork, and there is overlap. There are only things which are planned for 2026, and before this year will be done, 2027 will be already in the process. So for at least 15 people, it's a non-stop process.
Yeah, but
And it's gonna be on a festival ground. We are coming on maybe Wednesday, the
week before.
The week before.
Okay, so it's 1 week. And how long after I go home and sleep? How long do you guys need to work there to take everything down?
When the last crew is leaving,
Yeah, if you are counting the last one, it's 12 days.
Something like that. Yeah.
I was about to say 2 weeks, yeah. But there you have those works of the volunteers, the brutal assault themselves, how we call the brigades. Martin was mentioning those are operating also almost all the year. Maybe not when it's like very frosty winter, but otherwise it works all the year and it's a lot of preparation. You can imagine how much work you can have with the fortress, which is not built last year, right? So that's a lot of work which goes all the year. But festival itself, let's say last crew are leaving within 2 weeks after the festival.
One thing. Last year I bought some patches for my vest, which I always forget to wear. I have probably one of the most expensive vests in the world, but I always forget to put it on. But there at the festival, they would sew it on my vest. Is that the strangest job that is on the festival? Or is there any other job at the festival that is, well, I wouldn't call it strange, but it's a job that you would never expect that is there?
Well, seamstress lady would be definitely one of those things which will come last to your mind when you're talking about Extreme Metal Festival. I would agree with that. But on the other hand, if you're not patient enough, you just bought the patch, you have your jacket, you have free space, you want to show it immediately under the impression of the band which just happened on stage a few minutes ago, you have that option.
Yeah, I found that really interesting that, you know, that's detail. you know.
That was a brave idea of a
Yeah.
friend of mine, and I was like, wow, that's a good one, and I'm so happy that we made it work. So.
Now, guys, so as we said earlier, it's the 30th time that the festival is held. But this kind of is started as a passion project. I mean, you were just metal fans, you're into this music. I mean, Thomas, I know that you have been tour manager and driving around with metal bands around the world. But what's kind of the background of this? I mean, what's the story of you guys getting into this?
Start with the
Yeah,
owners.
I'm just trying to reminisce when we first done something. Thomas did the book Cannibal Corpse for like
Yeah,
7th or 8th volume of the festival. maybe.
Yeah. Basically, Shinde was always part, or from the second edition, was part of the Brudla South, and then we started doing shows together, and then I was helping out on Brudla South. I was stage manager 1 year. Then I started booking bands, and then Vladan, the original promoter, said like, "Oh, I don't want to do it anymore. If you want to do it, you can." And back then it was a festival for 1,200 people, pretty nice one. It was the one we loved, but a lot of things needed to be done a little different way. And so we jumped on it and we took it as our life passion, and we really wanted to make it up to our expectations and ideas. And back then I was already working on different shows and festivals, and I was able to reach Hellfest when they became Hellfest after Fury Fest back in the days, and it was a great inspiration, and we wanted to do a festival a little bit different way, and we started setting up the ideas, and year after year, step by step, it has taken a long time, but we managed to do it. And what is super interesting from today's perspective, that we have done so many mistakes, but people were still great about it, and they just were keep forgetting, because the idea we brought in back in the days was much bigger, and it was never about to be a scam, which is the most important thing. So people did understand that sometimes the shit can happen. But at the end, it's important how do you stand it, how do you fight with it. For example, when we first made our cashless system, there were the lines were like 4.5 hours to get into the festival area. But then we apologized and said, we are very sorry, we fucked up, and the only thing we can do is just to make it better next time. And that's extremely important, to be passionate, but to be true, and to explain things, and then people do understand, because they do see that the purpose is great, but once you are on the way, sometimes you step into the mud.
What I've always been impressed with watching, because I've been lucky enough to go backstage and see everything that is going on, what I always find so impressive is that how few the mistakes are actually. I mean, how, like the transition between bands, there are very rarely any sound issues. There is almost never any delay in the program. And yeah, for me, both to get in and out of the festival area, and also the food options, the bus from the festival to the hotel, it works. I mean, yes, there can be some small things here and there, and I just find this very, but I guess, I mean, you guys have been doing this, you grew, your experience grew with the festival, as you say, 1,200 people and 18,000 when it's sold out now, so of course but what I found really impressive, which I haven't felt at other festivals, is that, I think it was last year, it rained, or the year before, it was raining. And like 30 minutes later, there was something on the ground to absorb the water. And you didn't even see people putting it out, it was just there, you know, like, and that's what I felt like when I see that whenever there is something, there is a very quick reaction somehow. like you're saying. You say, okay, we need to deal with this. There is something happening here. I think that's...
I would say for that one, it will be also necessary to pay some tribute to the people who are doing it for years. The crew is experienced, and also you are somehow used to the place because the guys moved the festival to the Fortress, if I'm not mistaken, between 2006 and 2007. 2007 was the first one in the Fortress. So you already know if storm is coming, that most probably those are few spots when you have to be ready to set something on the ground. In case of mud, will be happening there. So if you know those things, you always have the biggest risky issues when you change the location completely, and you have to learn what can happen.
But still, it can be pretty tricky because it can work out, but once there is another storm and it got soaked again, it will not. So from that perspective, it's better to use another material. So it's always challenging, but for us, it's important. It's just we have that's our Christmas. Actually. So
and it's many people's Christmas.
That's the most important
time
weekend,
of the year,
and we have to do everything to make it the best for the people and for us. So that's what we are here for.
Now this, I think Brutal Assault is one of very few festivals of this size that is independent. You don't get any public money, right?
We do have a little bit, but it's completely independent property.
And is that important? Is that important to the festival to be independent? Why is that then important?
Oh, sure, because then you can still put on your ideas and you can do it the best way you can. And sometimes what I do see basically, that sometimes the festivals which are not independent, sometimes they don't care so much about the spirit, about the soul. It's more money oriented in a way. We bring you bands, we tap a beer, we do the business. But then there should be a bigger idea behind the festival, and that's the connecting point between us and fans. And once the people do understand it, that you are on the same page, and that's something which is the experience, that's the biggest experience. So you always have to put it from that perspective, and the independence is a big part of it. And there is not so many independent festivals anymore, so hope they are gonna sustain and be around.
But how do you finance this then? I mean, because also what I noticed, you don't really have a lot of sponsors, so partly, I mean, it's not like you have Sea Shepherd, but I guess they don't pay you because Sea Shepherd probably...
Oh, no. It was about we do not want to be connected to the super big brands, and to have sponsors which fit with us can be sometimes difficult, but it's then much better to do a good idea and connect it to the good thing, and then it's gonna do the favor for the community as well. So that was the idea basically behind the Sea Shepherd.
But so how do you finance this? I mean, because I guess you need to prepay bands or pay something to bands, and
okay, so
it's just the money that is in the business.
Yeah. After many years, we already do know our cash flow, and we can do it. So it's easy. Well, back to the sponsorship. We do have a few, but it has to be picked particularly the right way. For example, we do have the Marshall stage, which is a great brand which belongs to metal as well. So that's cool. But in general, after so many years, we know how to finance it, and we are not in a crazy situation anymore because we are stable.
Yeah, and I guess after 30 years or 30 events, you could go to a bank and say, listen, we've been there for 30 years, give us 1 million or whatever, like it's, you have a history.
Sure, but it was most important in the days of the beginning.
Yeah, nobody wanted to give you anything then.
Which was not the case, but yeah, you are right.
Everybody loves you when you're rich.
Yeah.
Nobody likes you when you're poor. That's just how it works. Okay, so, but what about this year? Is there something new? I mean, I read something about collector's tickets and stuff like that. Is there are some new things coming this year, right? The camps are bigger. There's a spa hotel, I think, that I read about. So what's new?
Yeah, these are maybe not like brand new stuff, but we are trying to make it better or more comfy and this and that. And for the hotel, yeah, we just thought that visitors maybe just wanna have some rest, some extra services.
Yeah.
So we found a nice spa hotel where you can do all the procedures you can imagine. They have it on site. So yeah, that's one of these campsites. Yeah, we run our camp like you come to a already built up tent with inflate mattresses. So we just go in, enjoy the festival. After the festival, we leave the stuff out and go this. For example, like the car by tent option, where you can park your car directly next to your tent without any barrier or fencing or anything in between. And yeah, there are a couple of these things that are making the enjoyment, the better enjoyment to the visitors.
And the collector's tickets?
Yeah, the collector's ticket, we came, yeah, we have done this for years.
Okay.
Like 5 years ago, every year we got a collector's ticket, but this year we tried to like resurrect the idea, and we have done something like never before in the history of brutal assault. It's very like, the design is very nice and it's very playful. You can play with the tickets and it's nice.
So basically I need to go again.
Churches, and it's got the church, the patch of the church.
Yeah, you got a couple of like extras to the ticket
Okay.
itself, like 3 stickers and patch.
Okay, I need to check
Even
this
the
out.
envelope is like designed for
That's
this,
cool.
this edition.
Talking about designs, I see also that you do a new T-shirt for every festival. Obviously, I mean with the lineup or whatever, and it sells. It's that merch is always busy, and it's really and I can see on the Facebook groups like the Brutal Assault Facebook group, people really want this T-shirt. They want to have some proof that they were there, you know.
I was there.
So I guess, you know, like as you said, it's Christmas. You wanna have something behind, you know. You wanna, and people take this seriously. It's a serious thing that I'm going to brutal assault. I wanna have something to remember it, you know. And I think that's really cool.
And also that's one of the things which actually answers one of your previous questions. Like this is where the money come to the festival. Like people are the main source of it with what they pay for tickets, what they pay for merchandise and other things. That's what is the main structure how the festival is financed. And also, as festival is growing, people are also getting older, and you don't stand the same background if you are 20 or if you are 40. That's why you have everything from the tent up to the hotels, when you can also have a massage, because your kind of more tired body requires more
Tell me about it.
services.
I mean, I show up to
Exactly.
brutal assault now with a massage foam roller that I roll my back and my legs when I come home in the evening. First time I went there like 15 or 16 years ago, 15 years ago, if somebody would have told me, you'll be coming here in 15 years with a foam roller to massage your legs, I was like, fuck you. But now I was thinking, when I saw the spa hotel, I thought, oh, this is great. I could take some girl with me, we could have a nice time.
And that's exactly what I want to connect it to. That all everybody's got different desires, but then you can experience brutal assault like on a site, and when you are in the hotel, you can just chill out, and they can give you massage, and it could be super like chilling. So you can have now 2 perspectives in one experience, which is
Most people will tell you that the best beer tastes the best after the sauna. So I would say the best massage or whirlpool is after spending the evening in the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, actually, sitting here listening to you guys, I realize there is more philosophy behind this. I mean, I know you for 3 years or something, and I never thought that you were a money grabber. I would never take you as such, but there is some, and actually, you know, like you plant trees, you have ecology behind this whole thing. Can you tell me a little bit about how this philosophy is? You know, Sea Shepherd is there. That's clearly has some sort of an idea or ideology behind it. So what are these things that the festival does? Because you're part of a small community there. You come visiting with your Christmas for a week in August, and there is a small community that lives there. How do you contribute to the kind of neighboring community? What do you do for the environment and these kind of things?
Yeah, so speaking about the environment stuff, we do a lot of little things, and little things make the big picture, you know. So yeah, we can pick brutal forest, which is like planting the trees, which sounds quite simple, but it really helps, and we are doing this for 5 years already, and we've done like 10,000 plus trees already, and yeah, it's another volunteering activity we do, and we do it with passion.
So can you tag it on Google Earth? So if I check on Google Earth, it will be brutal forest.
You can look for the location, but I don't think you can
See it.
count the trees or this.
And what about the neighbors? I mean, like, it's how many people live in Josefov where the fortress is? How many people?
I would say it's about 1,500.
Yeah, 2,000 maybe, something like that.
And they're happy to get you there.
Oh, very
Yeah.
happy.
Oh, that's pretty interesting story, because the people are really fine, and they are able to, how would I say it? They are just tolerant. And in general, that's one of the few festivals which is in the city, and it doesn't really matter, and we just go on after the midnight, which is great and which is particular part of our format. But everybody is happy about it, and people do like it, because Josefov used to be quite a big city and big name, and it kind of faded away, and now it's a thing which brings in the publicity and maybe even a tourism afterwards.
Yeah.
So I believe that's a win-win thing.
Now, my friend actually, he suggested, oh, we should buy a house here, you know, because we can stay there ourselves, and then we can rent it out during the festival, you know. And like, if we would never have known about Josefov without Brutal Assault, you know. So it definitely puts the town kind of back on the map.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm curious. So, do you have some interesting data, like some numbers? I mean, how many beers do you sell per festival? Do we know that?
Do you remember?
I mean, it's definitely over 1,000 kegs.
Okay.
That's for sure. That's a big thing, and that's I mean the most people do drink a beer, and we are super happy that we are able to offer it in such a high standard, which the Czech beer, Pilsner beer is.
How much is in a keg for? Because I'm not a
That's
beer
a
guy.
50 liters.
So 1,000 times
100
50.
beers per keg.
100 liters per keg.
100 beers.
Beers per keg. And
50 liter.
1,000 times
Over
100
1,000,
yeah.
It's a million beers.
That's not the right math.
No.
Well, over
100,000 beers.
yeah.
No, it's much more.
Wait, yeah.
We need a calculator
Yeah,
here.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, we'll figure out. I'll put it on the screen.
Okay.
And how many toilets?
We got around like 200 toilets.
Okay.
There is a connection, right?
Yeah,
You
because
drink
whatever
something
goes in has to come out.
Of course. We should vaporize a bit.
So do you have any specific tips for people who are coming either for this year's edition, either for the first time or they've been there before? Are there any specific things that people should check out before? Because what I found out, you can actually do a lot of stuff. You can talk about your credit, you know, like there are many things you can do before.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend, and especially if you are first comers, there is a community on the Facebook, Brutal Assault community, where you always get help. You just ask and you get answer to your questions. Otherwise, you just think as you are going somewhere for the first time, you do some research, and then you ask, and you do a lot of things up front, like you do online top-up, you do this or that, and that helps you to enjoy the festival more.
And there is a warm-up. There is one night before, right?
Yes, on Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
I have one pretty special thing, and that finally we made the deal that there are gonna be a special Brutal Assault Express trains out of Prague to Josefov and back. It's a very ecological thing to do. We are gonna do it as a festival, so it's gonna be kind of our trains. But what's a very cool thing about it, that we are gonna be swapping people in a train. So once you come out of the train, you will have already checked in. You are gonna have a wristband, and you don't need to sort it out. So that's quite a new thing, and it can be a great advantage. That's just to not stay in a line and catch more bands.
Okay, that's great. So guys, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. I had a lot of interesting information, and I hope you guys that are watching this are going to show up at Brutal Assault. Check out all the links in the first comment below, how to get tickets, all that stuff. It's almost sold out, right?
Yeah.
So you have to act fast.
You have to be fast.
You have to be fast. See you.